How should the NBA return to play, and what format should they use? A ton, since we got off the air on Monday. A few different suggestions by some pretty big-time people were thrown out there, and I'll give you a few and why I think that these really, all three of these ideas should be merged together into one. I'll explain what I mean. So ESPN Brian Windhorst reported that the season could resume with just the playoffs, and instead of having normal 8 teams in the West, 8 teams in the East playing each other, one plays 8, 2 plays 7, and then the winner of the East plays the winner of the West, like the format that we've seen, for most of our lives. Brian Windhorst is reporting that the league could resume and seed 1 through 16 based on record. So scratch East and West, put all the, all 8 playoff teams, 8 from the East, 8 from the West, put those, take the standings currently, and then put them all together and seed them 1 through 16 based on record. I think that could be really interesting. So that's what Brian Windhorst is reporting that the league is contemplating. And again, none of these are confirmed. These are all just thoughts of different ways that the NBA could resume. Now, Mark Cuban, owner of the Mavericks, really had an outlandish and pretty out there suggestion. Here's what he suggested earlier this week when doing numerous radio hits throughout the week. He suggested 5 regular season games for everybody. So bring all 30 teams back, play 5 regular season games, have 20 playoff teams. And of those 20 playoff teams, have the bottom 4, so he would seed 1 through 20, have the bottom 4, 17 through 20, play basically a play-in game for the postseason. So the bottom 4 teams play each other. The 2 winners will move on, and they will play the 8th seed in the best-of-5 series. So he would basically seed them 1 through 20. Bottom 4 teams play each other, then break it up back to the normal bracket of 8 teams on each side. So the 2 winners would basically become the 8 seeds, and they would play the number 1 seed, the Lakers and the Bucks, in a best-of-5 series. And then after that, the playoffs would resort to normal. So, you have the conference semifinals, the conference finals, in the normal format that we're used to viewing it. And lastly, I think the NBA should kind of tap in a little bit to see what the NHL is doing. The NHL announced their return to play format is going to go right to the playoffs. Their format is going to be a 24-team playoff to where the top 4 seeds in each conference. So again, they're going to keep the conferences. They're still going to keep the conferences. They're going to have 12 teams in each conference make the playoffs. The top 4 teams in each conference will have a bye, and they'll basically play each other for seeding. So teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 will have a round-robin tournament to see, okay, this is the team that's going to be the first seed, this is the team that's going to be the second seed, third, and fourth seed, based on that tournament that they're going to play. The rest of the teams are going to play each other in a best-of-5 series. And then from there, again, have it a bracket format. So, as you can tell, wearing a Ranger hat, I'm a Ranger fan. The Rangers would be the 11th seed. They would play the 6th seed Carolina Hurricanes, and I believe after that they would play the 3rd seed of whoever finishes in that round-robin tournament, the top 4 teams. So they're trying to, they're expanding the playoff, but having it in a way to where, sure, teams that were getting hot, that were on the playoff chase in contention could still make it, have a chance, and that's how they decided to split it up. I think what the NBA should do, I think is personally, again, so this is the idea that I'm coming with here. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you like it or not. I think the NBA, what they should do is adopt pieces of all 3 plans. And here's what I mean by that. 20-team playoff format. So go right to the playoffs, 20-team playoff. Because right now, resuming the regular season not only seems pointless, it also seems reckless. The playoffs are where the real money is made for the NBA. So bringing all 30 teams in, bringing teams that have no shot at making the playoffs, like the Knicks, like the Cavaliers, like the Warriors, all you're doing is bringing more bodies in, allowing more players the chance to get sick, get infected, and then spread it. And they spread it to playoff caliber teams. Guess what? The league's shutting down. One positive test is not going to shut the league down, but if multiple players on one team, if teams, plural, have to get shut down, that's when the league shuts down. So my thought is bring as least amount of teams there as possible. So with that said, you bring 20 teams, so you allow only teams that are in the playoff race that have a shot to be motivated to actually play. And the reason why I say this is because you have Damian Lillard, who came out the other day and said he's not playing if his team doesn't have a shot at the playoffs. So Damian Lillard was talking to Yahoo Sports and said, if they resume the league, if they play basically, let's say 5 to 7 regular season games, because again, the reason why they would do that is to reach the 70-game benchmark for these regional sports network contracts so they don't have to pay them more money. So his philosophy is that if they're going to play these regular season games in order to just fulfill that 70-game requirement so that the league isn't paying or refunding these regional sports networks, he's not going to play. If the Trailblazers don't have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs, he's sitting out. He'll go with the team to Orlando. He'll go through practice, but when it comes to the games, he will sit on the bench because he said there's no point in playing. If my team doesn't have a shot, I'm not going to play. And there are plenty of big-time star athletes right now that are on teams like that. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Warriors, are not making the playoffs. Why would they play? Steve Kerr basically already said they're in off-season mode. So you have a lot of these teams that are in the bottom of the league, that their season's been over for months, come out and basically say, I'm not into it. We're not going to, we're already treating this like the season's over for us. We're into off-season mode, and I'm sure a lot of the players are following suit. So that's why, to me, it's reckless and dangerous to resume the regular season because you're going to have a lot of players that aren't into it. And again, more bodies equals more risk of infection, which would take down the league. So it's more dangerous than beneficial to try to resume the regular season. So bring back 20 teams, and here's why I think 20 teams would both help the playoff format, but also fulfill regular season requirements. So here's what I would do. I would allow teams in the playoff race to basically have their just due. So 8 teams in the East, 8 teams in the West, those teams are locked in. Take the next 4 teams, record-wise, and put them in and give them a shot, which would be the Blazers, the Pelicans, the Kings, and the Spurs. Those are the next 4 teams that are closest to the playoffs. Hey, guess what? Damian Lillard's on that Blazers team. And all 4 of those teams are, I believe, at most 3.5 games out. So they're right in the playoff race. So you allow the teams with the 20 best records to qualify. And here's what you would do. Similar to what the NHL is doing with having teams, basically fight it out and play it in. I would have the top 12 teams. So you see them 1 through 20. Similar to what Brian Windhorst was reporting. So you see teams 1 through 20. You have them play each other 5 games to figure out the final seeding. What is that? Why is that? Why 5 games? Because guess what? You can market those as regular season games. Top 12 teams will play a round-robin tournament with each other 5 games to figure out the final seeding. In doing that, you can fulfill these regional sports network contracts for most of them, I should say. Obviously, you're not going to fulfill it for everybody. But this allows players to get the rust off, so you're not going right into the playoffs, and the first game they're playing is a playoff game. So you can allow them basically to have an exhibition game or so, have them play 5 regular season games to fulfill those contracts, and get as close to fulfilling those contracts as possible. You knock the rust off, and the top 12 teams again could fight it out for seeding purposes. So the bottom 8 teams would play each other in a best-of-5 series. So obviously 8 teams, 4 will win. You slot them in a 1 through 16 format, the last 4 seeds, 13, 14, 15, 16. The playoffs begin. 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15, and from there you bracket it and you go until you have a champion. So I like the idea of seeding 1 through 16. I like Mark Cuban's plan of a playing tournament, which you would have with the bottom 8 teams. Have them play each other, 4 winners, best-of-5 series, slot them as the last 4 seeds in, 1 through 16. You have the top 12 teams play 5 regular season games to figure out final seeding. And guess what? You can use those games as regular season games to, at least for those 12 teams, get it close to fulfilling these regional sports network contracts as possible. And play those, 1 through 16 series and 7-game series. So just for me, it's the fairest way to have playoff caliber teams in the mix, have everyone playing for something that means something. That's something you have to make it to where these games matter, these games mean something. So the top 12 teams will play each other in 5 games to figure out the final seeding. 13 through 20 would play each other in a 5-game series. Those 4 winners would move on, be the last 4 teams in the playoff. 1 through 16, there's your playoff. So it's a little confusing. 20 teams, bottom 8 teams play each other. Seed them 1 through 20, bottom 8 teams play each other. Those 4 winners move up to be the final 4 seeds in a 16-team setting. Have them play, then just play it out. 1 through 16, 2 to 15 in a 7-game series, and there is your NBA playoffs. So at least to me, it allows for regular season games to still be played, but it doesn't involve every single team, so you're still limiting the amount of bodies, amount of players that are there. So again, the smaller the number, the less rate of infection in theory, or the less percentage of infection, I should say. So it keeps players safe and tries to add some intrigue to the season. And again, I think it's an exciting way to get the season back off and running, which is what the NBA needs. So I'm curious. Let's get your thoughts. Do you like this idea? What is the best way for the NBA to resume? Should they adopt something similar to a 20-game or 20-team playoff, or do you think it's too gimmicky? I've seen that too, where people just want to go back to the playoffs like it normally is, 8 teams, East versus West, because that will be the only true way that an asterisk won't be put on the season. I think this is a great opportunity for Adam Silver and the league to test something out, to have a trial run. Because guess what? And I want to kind of get into this as his own topic. Maybe I'll do it on Monday. I do think the NBA players need some sort of revamping. Baseball truly is any team can win. We saw that with the Nationals as the most recent example, being the wild card team, beating the Dodgers as the number 1 seed, beating the Astros, and winning the World Series. It truly is, once you get in, anyone can win. The NFL is a little bit less like that, but at the same time, one game, anything can happen. You had the 6th seed in the Tennessee Titans make it to the AFC title game. And one game, anything can happen. NHL is similar to baseball. Once you're in, anything can happen. Even in a 7-game series, anything can happen. It's all about who has the hot goalie, who's playing well. And we just saw last year. The number 1 seed, Tampa Bay Lightning, were swept by the 8th seed, Columbus Blue Jackets. Swept. 8 not only beat the 1, 8 swept the 1. The NBA is the only league where there is basically, there's zero parity in the playoffs. These top teams are winning. You had sort of an upset last year with the Blazers going to the Western Conference Finals, but for the most part, there's no surprise. And I'm not trying to rig a system where, the best teams have a tougher shot at winning. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make it more exciting. So sure, we'll still get the parity. We'll still have the Lakers and the Bucks and the Clippers probably make it to the conference finals respectively. But could we get some excitement going there? So a lot of these series we see, especially early on, are just dustings. 3 or 4 of the most dominant teams are not going to have too much of an issue. So I like the 20-team playoff because it still allows for some excitement. And it has something different to where I think this would be a really good idea, a really engaging idea. So I'll take your thoughts. Worldwide Sports Radio Network on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, or WWSRN_radio on Twitter. What is the best way for the NBA to resume? I think it's 20-team playoff, seed it 1 through 20, and then once you knock out the bottom 4 teams, seed it 1 through 16, and start the playoffs, 7-game series as normal. So you can still allow for some regular season games and fulfill those contracts. And again, you still have the excitement of the playoffs and allow all the playoff caliber teams to have a shot. Damian Lillard said he's sitting out if he doesn't have a chance to play. So let's get your thoughts again, either on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on Twitter, WWSRN_radio, WWSRN_radio. We'll get your thoughts on the best way to resume. Because that's obviously another question as well, is an asterisk or no asterisk. I had the argument, I made the argument a few weeks ago, there should be no asterisk on whoever wins. MLB, NHL, NFL, NBA. They're all dealing with the same circumstances. Right? To me, an asterisk is only reserved for teams that cheat like the Astros, for teams that maybe wouldn't have won under normal circumstances, but were because either a season was literally stopped and no playoffs were able to play, or something like that, to where, again, something extremely abnormal went on to allow this team to win. Obviously, a pandemic is an abnormal circumstance, right? I'm not trying to diminish the effects of the coronavirus and the effects of a pandemic. But my point is, if every team's affected by it, if every team is dealing with the same circumstances, then isn't that just a level playing field? Now, if the pandemic affected, let's say, 8 of the 10 teams to where they're playing the playoffs, let's just say, for argument's sake, let's take a team in the middle. Let's just say the Pacers. We're in the playoffs right now. The Pacers are playing, and they are the only team that doesn't get sick somehow. The other 8 teams in the East, the other 8 teams in the West all get sick. The Pacers are the only team, and the playoffs have to end. Would you crown the Pacers champions because they're the last one standing? If so, there's an asterisk. But if you're dealing with the pandemic, if you're dealing with pandemic circumstances to where everyone's on the same boat, everyone is dealing with the same circumstances, and we all come back, and everyone's a level playing field and an equal opportunity to win. What's the difference? What's the difference between that and any other season? Injuries happen. We don't put an asterisk there. We don't put the Raptors title in question because Kevin Durant basically missed the entire finals outside of 10 minutes. And the team was dropping like flies. You had, towards the end of Game 6, you had Klay Thompson tears ACL. The Warriors were dropping like flies. Do we put an asterisk on the Raptors because they won because of injuries? No. We don't put, a asterisk on the Heat back in 2011 when LeBron James won his first title because they won during a strike-shortened year. They played 66 games. Do you put an asterisk on them? No. There's not really many times that an asterisk is necessary, and I don't think that this year in 2020 it is necessary.